So I tried using Affinity as a Krita user. Photoshop was the first app that I spent a lot of time using, then I moved to Krita, which is what I currently use. I like it because it's free, but there are some features from Photoshop that it's missing. Now that Affinity is also free and it's supposed to be a Photoshop alternative, I wanted to see how it feels painting with it. I do have a license for version 1 and 2 of Affinity, but at the time, it felt too laggy to paint with. This version of Affinity and the latest release of Affinity Photo performs perfectly fine though. To test Affinity's capabilities, I tried making a painting using a workflow that I would use in Krita. The biggest difference between Krita and Photoshop is how its brush tool is designed. In Photoshop, the paint, erase, and mixer brush are three different tools. In Krita, those are combined into one tool. I think the Photoshop design is much better, and I'm happy to see that Affinity has the same design. The advantage of them being separate tools is this. I can paint with one brush, I can erase with another brush, and I can blend with a different brush. In Krita, if you want to paint, it's the same tool. If you want to erase, you can toggle that brush to erase instead. And if you want to smudge, you have to change the brush that has the smudge brush engine selected. So that's how it works. Now, if like painting and erasing is fine, but it is much harder to have a variety or controlled variety of how you smudge things. Because see, if you change to a different smudge brush, like it doesn't have the same behavior as like this. Like I just want this behavior, but like a different brush tip. How can I do that? Well, you go here, you pick a different brush tip, then exit that. So you have a different brush tip, then change again. So it's not really the best experience. Compare that to Affinity. So let's see. So let's say we want to smudge this edge. So we pick the mixer brush tool. We pick this first, right? Then we decide that these shapes are getting too repetitive, so we change a different brush. Change again to a different brush. Change this, different brush. Change another brush again. It is much faster than what I can do in Krita. So you can see that here. Let's that's a different brush, that's a different brush. Like, you can easily achieve like a variety of shapes in your brush strokes. It's much more difficult to do that in Krita because like if you change to a different smudge brush, it retains its different like strength, I think it is. But yeah, it's a very different behavior compared to like what I want. Like, I want this, but you have to go here to do that instead of like I don't know. It's comparable, I guess, but I prefer how Affinity and Photoshop does it. Maybe that's because I came from Photoshop. I don't know, but I like it so much better. Another thing is brush management. Here in Affinity, we have this list. Notice that I can organize this by dragging and dropping. I could also here also do this if I want, but I prefer to see how it looks like. The other one just shows you the brush tip, which doesn't say a lot about the brush. But yeah, that simple thing, organization of brushes, not possible in Krita. Technically, it's possible, but it is sorted by name, which is not great. So, what's the name of this? This brush is what? Hairbrush. So, if I want to put this at the end, I'll have to like this, that. I don't know, but all I know is it's supposed to be like sorted by name. But yeah, I can't drag this around. Drag that around. It didn't update after I changed the name. I don't know why, but it's supposed to. But yeah, that's not great. But the advantage of Krita is that I can do this. I can do custom thumbnails, which show like which show what the brush can do with like minimal space instead of like a whole brush stroke like in Affinity. But yeah, is it better to have custom thumbnails than being able to reorganize your brushes? I'd say organization is much better over just seeing custom thumbnails, but would be great if it's implemented in Affinity. Another brush thing is the brush settings here. I feel like Affinity settings are very minimal. It's not noisy. It makes sense. Let's compare that with the Krita. Notice how like Affinity settings are like right here. It's not too far from where the brushes are, but that's just a very small detail which I like. And for Krita, it's way over here. Yeah. And like it works. You can change a lot of settings here, but mostly I just do size, opacity, change the curves. But this is a nice thing too, though. But in Krita, you can have this scratch pad thing to preview your brush. But here you could see the preview right here, and we can preview here. So it's not too bad. And last thing about brushes is the texture. It doesn't have this brush doesn't have a lot, but let's see this brush texture. So I like this. It it unifies a lot of settings because the brush is based off of these nozzles, and you can add or remove them to change the behavior. And let's see if we can add it. So if you have one brush or one texture in this list, it acts like a normal brush, and if there's multiple, it acts like the animated uh, what's it called? Animated brush tip in Krita. Let's see if I can find that. Here have you could add a stamp, and you could do animated, and basically you have a brush tip that is like a GIF. So when you draw it, it has like a different brush tip every stamp. And you can set it to random or something like that. But the main difference is that once you create a brush tip that's animated, you can't edit it. Unlike in Affinity, you can just change these brushes. You can reorder them. Like that's so nice. And yeah, I think Clip Studio has the same thing as this. I forgot how Photoshop works, but this is really nice. We can yeah. And, let's try this. Oh, that's nice. Yeah, yeah. I like that. Let's reset that. Yeah. Another feature that I miss from Photoshop is, let me do this. Okay, so you know how you draw in perspective, right? Like have jack. Then you do this. You can do this by hand, but I feel like it's very inaccurate at times, or maybe instead of just horizontal lines, you want to repeat like more complicated shapes like a person or something. Um, so you want to repeat the person so that it implies perspective. In Photoshop, there was a tool um, that lets you transform and copy the transformation. Let's see. And I'm happy that it exists in Affinity. It looks like this. Let's see. Nope, not that. What's this? Yeah. And then enable transform origin. Move that to the vanishing point. And then you do. What do you do? I think it's this. Scale it to maybe 80%. Duplicate that. I was saying another nice thing is that it updates like automatically. That's another feature or a feature in Affinity that you can always see your edits quickly, but I'll talk about that later. But yeah, this is very nice. And let's see if I can do this better here. This. Okay, so let's try to do proper perspective. Yeah, no. Okay, so this shape like this. Right. Then we do that, that. Let's do duplicate. Then like it's that easy, you know? So makes it very easy to like imply perspective. And in Krita, I'm not sure how to do it in Krita actually. Um, try. Let's see. As a line. Person. And okay, now transform. Let's try there. And duplicate that. And transform again, and it resets. So it's very annoying to do if you want to do like duplicate items or objects to imply perspective because you have to do this multiple times. And yeah, it's not great. So you can still do it, but it's a bit slower and painful. I asked in the forum how to do it, but I think there's some other solution that you could do. I think it's transform mask. I think they said. And I'm not sure how to use it. Yeah, it's kind of helpful that you can kind of preserve what you have. Like at least the transform origin is preserved using this way, but it's not as quick as you would like. But at least that's an option, I guess. But yeah, that's the transform origin thing. I don't know what it's called, but that's a feature. Yeah, no. It's very nice. But big thing that Affinity doesn't have is perspective guides. Um, in Krita, you have a bunch of perspective guides. Here, let me see, 2 point perspective, right? Then do stuff like this. We can have multiple, and then we can um, yep, do and it snaps to the perspective, which is very nice. Very nice. It's very helpful. Um, then you can toggle that. Yeah, it's nice. It's very helpful for perspective drawing. And in Affinity, we don't have that. However, since I am on Windows, I can have Lazy Nazumi. Yep, can have perspective guides through Lazy Nazumi, which is nice. Unfortunately, if I want to use this on Linux, I can't because it's only exclusive to Windows. But it can have this. You can do this. You know, do what perspective guides do. And the only bad thing about this setup is that if you move, it doesn't follow, unlike Krita. Like you if you pan around, it just follows the canvas and you don't have to worry about it. And that doesn't happen with Lazy and Zoomy. It's unfortunate, but you can still work around it. It's Busy Mizuni is very good. It's a much better perspective guide than what you have in Krita, but you know, in Krita the perspective guides works where Krita works, and that's not the case for Lazy Nazumi. So there's some trade-offs. But yeah, those are some differences for like big things that I care about for an art app, but there are small things that's very annoying that's not in Affinity. And that is, notice how this color picker is very small on my screen compared to this. That's because I can't resize this thing. Like, that is a very odd choice for a creative software to not have a resizable color picker. Like, can resize the navigator. Can, yeah, sure. Why not the color picker though? Like, it's very odd. Aside from that, rotation. In Krita, you can draw, rotate, rotate your canvas to whatever degree you want. To like, I don't know, line up your drawing arm to whatever line you're trying to draw. In Affinity, what is rotation? Like, you can already rotate a selection, right? Like, that's possible. That's great. That's great. But why can't I just rotate the whole canvas though? It's very odd. Like, similar to the color picker situation. It's very odd not to be able to rotate your canvas. I've heard that you're able to rotate on Mac, but still, this should be a feature everywhere on the first day of release. But whatever, I guess. Um. Okay, so we talked about the color picker, the rotation not being there. What else? Oh yeah, this thing. I'm not clicking on the canvas. It's just stuck there. I'm hovering my stylus on top of the tablet, and it's just stuck to panning mode. And the only way I could fix it is close Affinity, which is sad. Um, yeah. So we're back. We're back. We're back. Oh yeah, the other thing I want to talk about is that it's a small thing, but you are able to flip the canvas in Affinity. However, in Krita, you can flip the canvas with your cursor at the center, so you don't get lost in the painting. So here I can put the cursor at the side of the face, at the center, or wherever it makes sense, depending on the situation. Um, yeah, to make it clear, let me draw this. And then I can flip at the center, at one eye, at the other eye, at the side of the face. So, yeah, this is helpful if you're zoomed in into a painting. But, yeah, flip, it's like, what am I looking at? But that's a small thing, but it's something that gets like it gets annoying. Non-art related thing is that let's see the settings. Like we don't care about that. Um, so this new Affinity app is like three apps in one, right? It's like Adobe Illustrator, Photoshop, and InDesign all in one. You would think for a big app for their settings to have like a search function. But no, you have to like search through this, whatever, and like it's alphabetized, which helps, but I would rather just control F and then search for what I want. This search, like, I don't know what this search is for, but let's say I want to search for this alignment, justify all align, doesn't even show up. So, like, what is that for? But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Overall, though, I think it's a solid app. I mean, I think I can make art with it because, like, previously on Affinity Photo version 2, when I got the license for it, I felt like it was too laggy to paint in it. So I feel like now it's not too bad. Like it's it feels like I can do some brush work and not wait like a few seconds to get it. And ooh, another neat thing, there's an instant preview to everything. So let's say you have a face, right? So let's say this is a painting of a face. And you wanna do a shadow layer. Do multiplying as you do. Cool. Now let's say you don't like this color or this effect and you try to maybe look for a different layer mode, and look at that. You don't need to commit to a layer mode to be able to see what it looks like, because it's instantly giving you a preview of what it would look like before you commit. Let's say I like this one, difference. I haven't used difference at all actually, because I don't know what it does. But here, I don't need to know how it does, I just need to know how it looks. So, you know, it's nice. And this actually also works for eraser, I think. Erase. See? Like it's not very visible, but yeah, for eraser, you can like hover and you'll see a preview of what you're gonna be erasing or how much you're gonna be erasing, which is very nice. I can live without it, but it's very nice. Very nice. Yeah, I think that's all I have to talk about it in terms of like painting, but I like it. I think. I think I like it. Only thing I don't like about it is that the premise of it being free for some reason. I don't trust that. I don't buy that. But now, the tinfoil hat section. So, actually got the Affinity licenses for the first version and the second version when it released, only to support an alternative business model than Photoshop. So I like perpetual licenses. I think trust it more than it's a more stable business model, I think, as a consumer. When you get it, when you buy it, they will not be able to increase your monthly expenditure on the tools you use, And I'm afraid that this Affinity release by Canva is just part of the play of gaining market share, stealing users. I mean, stealing. I don't really care. Like getting users from to move from Adobe to Affinity, which is great. But the worry is that what if in the future Affinity will be the new Adobe? They'll slap a subscription price on top of Affinity, and we're back to square one with Adobe, and somebody will create another alternative, or Adobe will make their products free and it's a whole new cycle again. But I don't know. I feel like I prefer for Canva to just sell Affinity at a lower price with a perpetual license instead of this nebulous promise to make it free forever. Which, if you're not gonna attach an MIT license with that statement, like, don't make that statement. So that's why I like Krita. It's free forever, even if it has some quirks. Um, it's possible that somebody more skilled than me could create or add a feature to Krita that makes it better. That's all I have to say. Oh yeah, this is the result of the time lapse, by the way. If you're an artist exploring Affinity or you've been using Affinity, are there any other features that I missed? Let me know in the comments.